Okay, 2 people joined. Who joined? Just let me know, okay? Isabel, Ignacio, and Montana. Okay. Joshua. Okay, so Joshua, you joined too, right? We're on page 10 in our booklets. So if you're not in the only ones that have an excuse to be late today is group 4, right? Because they were here in the morning. So make sure that you're on time, okay? Because I always go right away. I mean, I know sometimes circumstances, I know it happens, okay? Just try your best to be on time so you're not lost when you join. Sometimes I don't see that you're joining and I can't even tell you which page we're on, okay? If you're ever late and don't know what page we're on, we have a great group here. So if you just type it in the chat, you're just like, can somebody tell me page number? And I'm sure someone will reply to that, okay? Don't be shy. We're all here to learn. All right, so page 10, bottom example here. Just a quick refresher for yesterday's time card. I give you 2 methods using a number line like this to help you determine where you're at, or the second method, which is converting all of your times to a decimal and then just subtract them using a calculator. You just have to be quick at determining that, right? Like this would be 6.75, right? So if I were you on a study sheet, right, I would just have, right, the conversions from minutes to hours like that for this unit. Put it under consumer decisions. That's under personal finance. This is chapter 2. And just have a quick little box here so you know what to do with the minutes, right? How to quickly convert them like that. So that's a must-have, okay? If you struggle with it. Let me try here. Maybe I should ask this before I start. Just wait at home, okay? Does everybody have like a big stack of booklets, like all of the booklets? Did you get a stack last week? But you just can't find this one? You recall getting this, Isaiah? Something like this? You recall? You just can't find it? Okay. So just follow here, okay? And if you find yours, just give it back to me. I'll do this as well. Is that better for you in here? If the light is off, you can see better, right? Okay. I think it's even for you at home, I think it's better if it's like this, I would imagine. So you have 2 methods, whichever works for you, okay? So let's go down to example 10, and keep in mind, okay, the goal is not to calculate hours. That's not the end goal. The end goal is to figure out how much this person is going to make, right? This is just part of your journey, okay? So if you want to use this method here, right, 7:45 to 9, what I would do is, and you will find out what works for you, but 7:45 is right about there. It's closer to 8, right? So I go 7:45 and then I count. That would be 1 hour, it would be to 8:45, right? And then there's 15 minutes left to get to 9. So it's an hour and 15 minutes. So I will just an hour and 15 minutes from here to here. Okay. And then 5 to 7:45. 5 is right here. You're on the clock. So this would be 1, 2, and 45 minutes, right? So 2 full hours and 45 minutes. So it's 2:45 that you've worked. It's not a time. This is not a time. This is telling you how much time has gone by. And this is what I would do here. 115 is 1.25 and 2.45 is 2.75. Okay, so that would be 4 hours that you've worked on Monday. This is the other method. I'll do it right away before I move on. You can actually just use your calculator. Okay. Normally, if everybody's in every day, I do some mental math with these types of questions. But you're at home now. I can't check if you're doing that or not. So here I would go 9 o'clock exactly minus 7, and this is what a lot of students do. Oh, 7.45. No, it's wrong. 45 minutes translates to what as a decimal? 7.5, right? So then you get your 1.25 there. You can actually just write it down as a decimal there, 1.25, right? You can do it here or there, right? And then this next one, so that's 7.75 minus 5. That's 2.75 that you get between these two times, which I wrote down there. And then you add them up and you get 4, right? So Monday is taken care of. I would imagine that a lot of you are going to transfer over to calculator method, but that's up to you. So 4 to 8 is easy, right? Please don't start counting here. I have a lot of students count 1, 2. No. You start at 4 and you go 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. So that's just 4 hours, right? Nothing to add there. Next line is 9 to 11. That's fairly simple too. You start at 9, you go 1, 2 hours, right? So I'll just put 2 here. And then it's 9 to 11, which we already know what it is, right? We just did that, so use that to your advantage. And then it's 3 to 5. So it's 1, 2, right? So another 2 hours, so it has worked 4 in total for Thursday. 3 to 6, right? Start at 3, 1, 2, 3, or you go 6 minus 3, whichever works for you. Okay. Oh, and then Saturday, I almost missed Saturday. 9 to 12. So 9, that's 1, 2, 3 hours, right? So you've got 3 there. I don't know why there's a line here. Let's get rid of that. We don't need it. So these would be your daily totals, right? Every day, this is the total. And then you have the weekly total, right? So let's do some mental math. 4 and 4 is 8, and 2 is 10. 20, exactly, on the nose. There you go. 20 hours worked. Just so you know, a question like Monday where you work mornings and afternoons, that would be worth 1 mark coming up with this. But if it's just half a day, it would be worth half a mark. That's how I would correct this. So we still have to answer how much did she earn. So gross pay, or just, right, just G if you want, or earnings, right, you can call earnings. That'd be 20 hours multiplied by 1976. And that is $395.20. Okay. And just so you know, gross pay, if you don't recall what that is, that's before taxes are taken off. Later on, we're going to take off taxes and all of that. So this is not realistic, but it's still getting us there. Okay, so we're doing everything that deals with hourly in this section. And so at this point, I'm going to ask you to, if you're here, you're going to get a paper copy of that little AC. You can do it right on there. If you're at home, you'll have to get it from Google Classroom, but I will also make it appear on the screen if you'd like. But then you can scroll on your own at your own pace, right? So get some loose leaf ready. I will just enable it here on my end. And there it is. You should see it now. So go to Classroom, Google Classroom, and then Classwork, and it's under Friday, October 9th. Yeah. 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 The reason is I have an iPad, so I look at all of them there later, and I can make some markings and stuff on there. So they see it. Make it appear here. So you're seeing the first three questions right there. So it's not a very long AC, but just go ahead and do that right now. Okay. Looking at your study sheet. Close our book. That's okay, folks. grab a marker or a pen, whatever you prefer. If you don't have anything else, use your pencil, but I would rather you use a pen or something, okay? And when you take a picture, take a colored picture, then I can see the markings as well. So here we go, one at a time, I guess. The first one is just a one marker, right? You're working a certain number of hours, you make this much per hour, calculate the gross pay. All you really have to show me is that you're multiplying the two numbers and that you get your final answer. Rounded to 2 decimals. So if there's only 0.9 here, you lose half a mark, okay? That's if it's a monetary answer, always 2 decimals, okay? Next, you work a certain job and you get paid a certain amount and you work 23 hours. What would the average hourly wage be for that particular job, right? So it's just wage divided, it's gross divided by hours, and that gets you that. So you get 1 mark, I would say, for the work, like if you set it up like this, because it's different than just multiplying. So 1 mark for the work and another mark for the right final answer. So if your answer is wrong, but you've done somewhat of, like you have done work, you get 1 mark for the work, okay? And 3 is the other way. Oh, it's not answered yet. Hold on. 623 divided by 1640. So that's 37.99 hours. I know it's weird, but hours can technically be stated as decimals, okay? Yeah. Oh, that's what you meant, round to nearest whole number? Okay, I thought you meant the 9/8 goes into 9/9. I would say if you said 38, I would give you the marks here. Yeah, yeah. But from now on, don't round hours. Yeah. Okay, and then next, so that's a 2 marker as well. So I would give you 1 mark for the work here and another mark for the answer. Okay. So 4, every, like this would be half a mark, right? So every difference here is half a mark. So this would be 3 hours. This would be 2.75. This would be 4.5. So half mark for every single entry is half a mark. This one for Thursday, that's worth 1 mark because you have to, right? You're getting half and half. So 7.25 is the answer there. So if you show this work and one of them is wrong, you still get half. But if you're not showing any work and just have a final answer here, you get 0 for this line, okay? And then Friday, it's 3.75 hours. So these are the daily totals. So that is, if you filled this in, you get 3 marks for A. Okay, so give yourself 3 marks for A if you fill this in. Or if you came up with those numbers, if you're at home, right? And then obviously B, this is, if you added this up, whatever you got here, you're gonna get 1 mark. Doesn't matter because if you made a mistake up here, you're not gonna be penalized again for B. And then C is finding the gross pay. So whatever number you get here comes down, you multiply, you still get the 1 mark. Regardless, if you're using this number here and you're using 1785, you get the mark here. Because you're still showing me that you understand how to find the gross pay. All right. So this whole AC is worth 10 marks. So at the top, somewhere at the top, you put a number out of 10. Again, we're not going to sweat it over half a mark, right? So if If I think it should be higher or lower or whatever, I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. But if you're being very gracious and giving yourself full marks where I can see that it's not, then it's going to be a different story, right? This is a learning tool, an assessment tool, right? And it's also allowing you to know where you're standing right now based on what we've covered so far. Okay, so mark out of 10. I will enable the submission. Let me just enable it. You can, in the meantime, I don't know if you can take pictures already, then it's faster. Okay, I think I got it. So something should pop up right now saying upload here. Go ahead and upload it now. Scroll up. Okay. Hold on, the chat is okay. How much were the top questions? Okay, I'm gonna go over it again. Okay, so everybody pay attention if you're not sure. The first one is 1. You always have the PDF as well, right? You can check. The first one is 1, then the second and third, they're each 2. So if you get the right answer and you've shown work, you get 2 out of 2 there. And then this is the chart. So every single one is half except for Thursday is 1, and then Friday is half as well. So if you made a mistake here, Gian, you lose accordingly. But then for B and C, you wouldn't lose as long as you did the steps right. So if you added up the numbers you have, so on a test, I would check that, right? And I would check if that adds up. So if that's correct, you get the mark there. If this adds up based on your hours, you get the marks there. Okay. Go ahead and submit. Make sure you press turn in. Some students don't actually press turn in and then it doesn't show as submitted. And I will also take if you're here, I'm going to take your paper copies. I'll come by to pick them up. Yeah. Okay, when you're done, take your booklets and go to page 11, okay? All right. I need more submissions. Sure you submitted, okay? Whatever you have, it's better than nothing. Because I do record it on my end, okay? Okay. All right, so open to page 11. We're going to start talking overtime. I am fairly confident that the word overtime has entered your brain at one point or another, or you've heard it, right? In this class, have you ever heard of overtime? Your parents worked overtime. That means what? You're working past your regular shift, right? It could be on a daily basis. So you're working a couple hours extra every day, or you could be asked to come in on a weekend, right? So let's say you work Monday to Friday, you come in on a Saturday or a Sunday to, especially now, a lot of sectors are working overtime like crazy to keep up with demand. Like uh, companies that supply the different chemicals to disinfect, all that, they're working nonstop around the clock, okay? And they still can't keep up. So on page 12, what I'm going to ask you to do is write down overtime highlighted on this page so you know. I don't think that the title here sticks out enough. So overtime, and then we're going to take some notes on the side that they don't, because remember, this is a workbook. This is not necessarily going through detailed lessons, okay? So we're going to go page 11 for, sorry, page 12 for some notes, and I will read them to you so that if you're writing it down at home, you can just listen. And so page 12, you should have one of these in there inserted. So overtime, when you exceed a certain number of hours, right, of daily hours, so it could be 8 hours, or weekly hours, which is 40, an employer will normally pay you more than your regular wage, okay? You get paid more than just your normal, whatever your hourly wage is. So time and a half, does that ring a bell? That one I'm not so sure if you will have heard it, because if you haven't worked, you don't come across that. This is 12. We're taking the notes on 12 and then coming back to 11. Got it, Patrick? Okay, there's types of overtime. And we have two types of overtime. There's time and a half, which, right, is telling you that you're making 1.5, right? This is time and a half. Okay. And double time. Those are the most common ones. There will be different ones. Okay. So if you're getting paid time and a half, you're essentially making 1.5 times of what you normally make. Not just the same, but it's 1.5. Okay. If your regular wage is $12 an hour, then the OT, the overtime wage, would be 12 times 1.5, right? There's that 1.5 creeping up again there, right? Which is $18 an hour. Okay, so essentially, if let's say you're making $12 an hour, but now you're working overtime, you're actually making $18 an hour during those hours. During those overtime hours, you're making more, okay? It's an incentive for you to actually say, yes, I'm going to stay longer, right? Because let's face it, overtime is only asked for if they really need it. So they're willing to pay you more to get the job done, okay? So there's time and a half, double time. Okay, listen carefully. This is most common. It could be 1.25. Like they'll actually say you make 1.25, like 1.25 times what you make normally, which is weird. I've never in real life, but the book does ask for it. So it's just not something I would normally ask you. I'm going to stick to these two because that's what happens in real life. Okay. Double time, it says it all. You're making twice as much as normal. So let's say, example, your regular wage is $24.50, which would be sweet, right? If you work overtime and you're getting paid double time, well, let's face it, you're gonna make twice as much. So all of a sudden, you're making $49 an hour working overtime. Isn't that sweet, right? So I remember I was working at Kitchen Craft, and there were people in my subdivision. They would purposely slow down so that they would be asked to work overtime, right? So they were kind of scamming the company a little bit, because they knew it's like, hey, if I work overtime, I make more, but I do the same job, right? It's a good deal, except for you're away from your family, right? And lose sleep. Note. Make sure that note is in there too. You only make overtime when you surpass, right? When you go past a certain number of hours. Example, let's say you work 10 hours. Usually 8 hours is a full day worth of work, right? You have one break of half an hour in there, but 8 hours you get paid for. So if you work 10, you would be making regular wages for 8 hours. And sorry about that. and overtime for 2 hours. So let's say you're this lucky person up here making $49 an hour. You would only be making the $49 an hour under like for 2 hours of overtime, if they promise you double time, that is. Double time is rare. Like usually it's for like Sundays. Like if they really need you badly to come in on a Sunday, they'll probably promise you double time. Or on a holiday. Like let's say Thanksgiving Monday, they need to catch up with production. They're like, no, if you come in, you're gonna make double. So a lot of people like that, right? So yeah, basically this full page is being filled up with notes, okay? Some companies will also pay overtime on weekends, regardless of how many hours you've worked during the week. So it doesn't have to be necessarily, you might have worked only 30 during the week, Monday to Friday. As soon as you come in on a Saturday, they will offer you overtime. All right, so once we're done copying, we're going to go back to 11 and do that example, but I'm going to add some examples to that as well, okay? So for this section, I will supplement quite a bit with my own examples. So I will post some PDFs online and you'll be able to get them from there. Okay, so back to 11. Okay, so example involving overtime. So you probably are going to want to have a few examples very short examples of how to do overtime on your study sheet, okay? Because you'll forget down the road. Okay, so Marcel works at a construction company and earns $15.82 per hour, so that's your wage. For a 37.5-hour work week. So they're telling you, right? This is telling you that this is a regular work week for the company. Okay. This company is saying 37.5 is regular. Anything past that is overtime. Okay. He's getting paid, right? You're going to get time and a half. There's that word, the time and a half, for any time that he works in excess of 37, right? If he goes over 37.5, right? Now it's saying if he worked, it should have been, or works 42.25 hours during 1 week, how much will he earn, right? Right, he worked this many hours, 37.5 shouldn't scare you, right? Is gonna be, that's what they're talking about here, and this is how much he actually worked, right? So out of the 42.25, okay, this is how I'm gonna show it for this example. Out of that, he obviously worked 37.5 hours fully, so this would be regular. And how many hours did he work overtime? How many hours overtime? What's that? Right, you subtract these two, right? So it would be like 5.25, exactly. So, but if you're not sure, if you don't work with decimals, right? 4.25 minus 37.5. Oh, okay, it's 4.75, right? It actually makes sense. Yeah. So 4.75 hours of overtime. How did I get this? I went 42.25 minus the regular hours, right? And that gave me this. So you have to subtract, right, what you actually worked minus the regular, right, to get your overtime hours. So these two combined give you what you worked in total, but you got to split it up. Okay, so that's, I'm going to show it differently later on, but here we go. Now we got to find out the gross pay. How much will he earn, right? What is the gross pay? So we figure out the regular, right? To get regular pay, you work 37.5, right? And you're going to multiply that by 1582. And you get a number there. Let's go ahead and do that. That gives you 593.25. So it gets paid this much for the first 37.5 hours that he's worked. Overtime, you've worked 4.75 hours, okay, times, this is trickier, okay, watch what I'm going to do here, 15.82 times 1.5, because you're not just making 15.82, you're making time and a half of that, okay, so you got to make sure this is important here, okay. So it almost looks like the same as before, hours times wage, but now the wage is different, okay? So I'm going to put hours down here as well, so you know this is dollar per hour. Okay, so I will do one more line. In the future, you can just go ahead and figure it out. But I will do one more line, 4.75 hours times, I will figure out what 15.82 is with my calculator, and that's 23.73 per hour. Okay, this is the overtime wage. Okay, so technically instead of 15.82, you're making 23.73 an hour. Now multiply those two together, and that is 112.72. We're going to underline this. We're going to underline this. Earnings, or also gross pay, don't let that throw you off. It's the same thing right now. Would be 593.25 plus 112.72. That'd be 7, 9, 5, 10, 6, 705 total. So overtime, you need to break it up. You cannot do it in one shot. If you do it in one shot, you're going to get it wrong, okay? And keep in mind that these two add up to the 42.25, okay? You need to break it up. I will say here, when dealing with OT, split the regular and OT hours, okay? And dealing with overtime, right? When you know overtime is involved, you split the regular and the OT, right? And then you perform that there. Okay, we're gonna leave it there. So I'm not gonna give you any homework. I feel like I need a bit more.